First, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. So, the first question for you is, how are you feeling nearly a week later after election night?
Well, I've been busy. I've been trying to take care of a couple of things. I still have a city that I have to run. I still have kids and, a household and lots of things that we do in the community. So, it's life goes on, and I'm still going to be working and doing what I can.
When you went into election night, what were you expecting Tuesday night?
Well, every credible poll had us winning. And so to have it so close was really, really surprising. We'll have to wait. There are a couple of votes that still need to be counted. 72,000 absentee ballots, provisional ballots, different things like that have to be counted. And so we're going to wait on the 20th and see what happens.
When you say surprised, is it just surprised, or I've heard you use other words, to describe the feeling that you had that night? Can you take me back to that night where you were probably sitting in a back room waiting? I mean, I was at the Hilton Hotel.
Yes.
And everyone's anticipating the numbers. It was one of the closest races. It was one of the most costly. And what was going through your mind moments before you found out that there were 2,500 votes that separated you and Jim Matheson?
Well, yeah, it was going back and forth, and so I thought I was a little surprised, just thinking that, with all of the polls that we had done, it wasn't just ours, but it was so many others that we should have been a little bit further ahead than where we were. However, like I said, when the polls came in and the election results came in, I wasn't surprised to find out a day later that there were so many provisional and absentee ballots out there. It's quite a few. So.
But on election night, did you feel like you lost? Because Congressman Jim Matheson is presumed to be going to serve a seventh term now. So on that night, you lost, and you came and you gave a speech, and you seemed, visibly emotional about it.
Oh, because it was an incredible experience. And can you imagine running? It's almost the feeling of like running a marathon, and then when you're done, you're exhausted. And I thanked everyone. I let everyone know that I didn't have any regrets. But everyone knows that at the end of this whole thing, especially races that are so close, everyone knows that there's the certified election results is what people will go on. And so, I wasn't happy where we were in terms of the election results, but I think that I felt like we've done so much. There was a lot we'd accomplished. We'd raised Utah's voice in ways that it hasn't been raised before. I have no regrets. I feel good about the campaign we ran.
You feel good about the campaign that you ran. You had to have felt disappointment, sadness.
Well, again, you work really hard, you expect one result. That's life. That's what happens in life. Life has ups and downs. Life has some wins. Life has some losses. And I think that's the problem. Too many people, the pundits will tell you, the pundits of doom and gloom will tell you that everything's over, all is lost. The economy's broken, that our best days are behind us. I mean, we can't believe that. We can't believe that the America that we know is not going to, get back on its feet again. And I think that there's no room for people to make excuses. I've always gone out and said, you can make excuses or you can make progress. I'm interested in making progress. I'm interested in, what's next? Where do we go from here? How are we going to continue to contribute?
When you say we, you talk about we as the United States of America, but I want to know about you.
Well, just to let you know, has always been we. That's always been my family. It's always been my community. It's always been the areas and the people that I represent. That's what I'm talking about with we. You have to understand that there were still, about 50% of the people on election night that voted for me, that really believed in what we were the policies that we were putting forth. And who knows what that number is going to end up being on the 20th. I don't know. We're just going to wait and see.
So you feel like you haven't lost? Or you're not conceding? Is that what you're saying?
No, I am not looking at it one way or the other. I want every vote to be counted, and I'm not going to assume one way or the other. is what I'm saying. I'm not going to assume that it's a complete loss. You don't know what's going to happen with these ballots. I'm not going to say it's a win, because you don't know. It's so close. The votes are so close. I mean, we're within around 2,000 votes now, and so it's pretty close.
Well, you look at the headlines that night and the following morning, and it was, Congressman Jim Matheson wins the 4th district.
Yeah, but no one knew that there were so many ballots left out there, and no one knew that there were that many that needed to be counted.
So then that night, when you didn't know that there were that many ballots out there left to count, how did you feel?
That night, there's so many mixed emotions. I can't, I know, I'm sure you probably have an idea of what you think, but
you tell me how.
I'm telling you that it's just a mix of emotions that you have. I felt grateful. I felt grateful for the amount of people that put the time and the effort into this campaign. I felt excited about how many people believed in me and what we were able to accomplish. I mean, just think about it. People are paying attention to our state.
But were you surprised that you lost, so to speak, on that night?
On that night, I was surprised. I think we would have been, I was hoping to be a little bit further ahead. Disappointed? Yeah, absolutely.
Surprised in the sense of utter shock, or just surprised? I mean, were you taken aback by that?
You have to understand, I have a life outside of politics. One of the things I believe that made me a great candidate is that I didn't need this job to define who I am. And so surprised, yes. Grateful, yes. Surprised just because, like I said, all of the polls told us that we were ahead. We were doing the right things and the message was resonating. So yes, in terms of where we expected the votes to be, it was a little different, but certainly grateful, and I have things to do. I'm going to contribute in other ways, and I think it's great.
What does Mia Love's future hold?
Again, I have a city I have to run that I love, and I'm excited to do that. I have a family that I get to spend a little bit more time with. There are a couple of things that I'm going to be doing. I've got some speaking events that I'm going to, and I'm going to make sure I still represent Utah and Utah values and conservative values of fiscal discipline, limited government, personal responsibility. I will always be a voice. Like I said, too many people think that everything's done. I think that as long as there are people that are in the fight, hope isn't lost. We'll still be able to preserve this country we know and love.
When you say represent Utah's voice and speaking engagements, what kind of speaking engagements?
Well, there are a couple of things. I get to go out and talk about conservative values. I've got a couple of speaking. There's a speaking engagement I'm going out to in Ohio. Some people have asked for me to go out and speak about this whole experience, and so I'll do that.
People? Curious.
I have to look up the name. I'll show you afterwards. I don't know off the top of my head. I forgot.
I mean, in a sense, though, when you say I'm going to Ohio and representing Utah's voice, and I have these speaking engagements, are these paid speaking engagements? I'm assuming.
Oh no, we've got some that are just come and speak, and they just deal with the expenses of going out. But like I said, I'm interested in just making sure I talk about conservative values and let people know that all isn't lost. That we can still preserve the things that we know and love about this country.
When I think of speaking engagements, I think of you look at Sarah Palin.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that would interest you in terms of sort of what she's done in terms of being a voice for whomever she's a voice for? But she's been very much on the forefront after we saw that loss. What's your role in politics after this?
I will always be a voice. I will always go out and do what I can to make sure I talk about the value of freedom. I talk about what's great about this country. I talk about the same policies in terms of shrinking the federal bureaucracies and making sure that people have more choices in their homes, in their communities, in their state. I will always be a voice for that. Because I think that that's what makes us great. I think I listen to stories. I want to be able to go out and tell people stories that I've heard throughout the 4th District of their struggles and the things that they've loved and haven't loved in the past few years. I want to be able to validate the people that I've lived with and I've gotten to know very well. I want to be able to make sure that they know that their message was heard, their story was heard, and I get to go out and talk about these things.
So you're not going back to being just, the mayor of Saratoga Springs and mom and wife. I mean, you're taking this experience and then using it in terms of building on it.
Wherever I am asked to work, I will. I guess that's the only thing I can say, is that if I believe that I can make a difference somewhere for the good, I'll do it. I'll go out and do it. My dad told me that I wasn't going to be a burden to society. I've mentioned my dad a lot. It doesn't stop with a loss. You have to be able to go out and continue to do what you feel is right and continue to represent the people that you live with. This world doesn't revolve around an individual. It revolves around people. And I want to make sure that we preserve that great document, the Constitution, and preserve people's freedoms. And I'm going to do everything I can to do that.
So was it your father that gave you the inspiration to
give back?
Get into politics?
No, not get into politics. He never mentioned politics once. But he said, Mia, your mother and I have done everything we could to get you here. You will not be a burden to society. You will give back. This is the way that I can give back. I mean, I've been able to go. I'm one of the lowest paid mayors in the city of Saratoga Springs. I make about $830 a month. And it's because it's a service. It costs me more to do the job than it is, than the stipend that they pay me. And that's fine. I knew that. I knew that that was the job. When the floods came, you don't just sit back and wait. You get in the mud and you start shoveling. That's what you do. That's how we take care of each other. That's how we help each other out. And so I'm going to do everything I can to pick up my shovel and start shoveling. Whoever needs help, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and talk about who we are as people.
Let's fast forward.
Okay.
2 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Another run?
Gosh.
Against
that's
Congressman
like,
Matheson?
We just went through a really tough race. I can't make any predictions. I'm going to wait and see what happens.
What
and
about
I think
Orrin Hatch?
I am going to wait and see what happens. The Utah delegation has been very good to me. Orrin Hatch has been absolutely wonderful. Mike Lee has been great to me. Jason Chaffetz, Rob Bishop, the governor. I hope I didn't forget anybody.
What if Hatch were to retire in the middle of his term? Has that
I
been a thought of yours?
I can't work in hypotheticals. I am, like I said, I take it one day at a time. And, I was always focused on the task at hand and didn't go beyond that. And so let's see what the task is going to be at hand.
I know that you're waiting for these absentee and provisional ballots to be counted.
Mm-hmm.
But presuming that you lost,
Mm-hmm.
because that's indeed how it's been portrayed, and
Mm-hmm.
I know you're waiting for the votes to be counted, but why do you think that you lost?
Oh gosh, I can sit and make excuses about what worked and what didn't work. Hindsight's always 20/20.
What do you think didn't work?
I think that it's unfortunate that we have so much money coming in from outside to try and deceive voters. I really wish we didn't. I think that there have been a lot of perceptions out there about the city, perceptions that were completely inaccurate about policies and
what perceptions were inaccurate?
Well, I'm sure you didn't get mugged on the way in here. Our city is one of the safest cities in the state, in the county. So much so that Bluffdale asked us to come in. You have more of a chance of getting run over by an antelope than you are getting mugged in the city. I mean, we have one of the lowest crime rates here.
When it comes to the issue of your police department,
Mm-hmm.
how is that relationship now? Because there were a few officers that had come forward. There was a threat of a lawsuit.
I thought it was pretty convenient. The timing was pretty convenient on that.
You felt like it was politically motivated?
Oh, absolutely. I think absolutely. No doubt about it, because we've never had any of those issues before.
What's happened since then?
Nothing.
Have you heard from their attorneys?
Nothing. And even if I did, I couldn't talk about it. So, you know, we'll move on. I think it's important to take care of our officers. I think it's also important to make sure that we're being very careful with the taxpayer dollars. Our officers get paid 15% higher than the average wage. And so I think that it's important for us to do what we can to take care of them, but also make sure that we're being responsible with taxpayer dollars. Our property tax here pays for nothing but public safety. And that's exactly what it pays for. It pays for police and for fire. And so we want to make sure that we're being very careful. You know, I need to make sure that I'm responsible.
Going back to the 4th Congressional District race and the conversation that we were having earlier about all the outside money that was poured into this race, you know, I crunched those numbers. I saw how much money was coming in, but combined between your campaign and Matheson's campaign and the outside groups, it was a more than $10 million race. Why do you think it became one of the most expensive congressional races in the state?
Well, I think it's because it started pouring in right after the national convention. When I went out, I posed a little bit of a problem for Barack Obama and the liberal agenda. And so that money came in to help my opponent out. And like I said, it's a lot. It was a little bit more difficult for me because I am a candidate that is not just going to talk about what's not working, but actually come up with solutions to fix our problems. I want to be able to come up and talk about certain things, and those exactly were the things that I was being attacked on. But if you think about it, you know.
So do you think voters' minds may have been swayed to vote for Matheson because of all the negative political ads that were out there?
Absolutely. Yes. Even though we don't like them, we hate them, Utahns hate them, they still plan to seat them. Most of the time I was saying to people, no, I'm not trying to get rid of Social Security. No, you know, I'm not trying to get rid of education. I'm trying to get as much money into the classroom as possible, get it out of Washington and into the classroom. You know, there are those things that come up. Am I ashamed? Am I upset that I came up with solutions to solve problems? No. I'm not. I think that that's what we need. We need leaders who are going to fix, who are going to come out and be able to fix and work with other people to fix our problems. That's what we need. And, you know, like I said, I know that there are a lot of people that are disheartened by the votes, you know, especially the presidential vote and even the votes in the 4th district. I know that there are some people that are really disappointed because, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we just have to move forward. And like I said, I wouldn't change who I am. I know who I am. I know what I believe in. I know that I believe in Utah families. I believe in Utah teachers. I think that they're a lot smarter and can get things done better than anybody in Washington.
You talked about being on the national stage. Do you think that may have been the moment or some sort of catalyst to why outside groups started pouring so much money into this race specifically?
I think it wasn't necessarily to keep Matheson in. I think it was more to keep me out. Because again, like I said, I pose a little bit of a problem for the liberal agenda. I pose a problem for Barack Obama and the narratives that he's put out there.
Were you surprised by how much attention you've received?
We knew that it was going to be a lot. I didn't know it was going to be so much, but I certainly knew that it was going to be a lot.
What was that like for you?
Watching that scary lady on TV that I didn't recognize.
What was it like for you to have the backing of Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, Boehner, these people flying into Utah and endorsing you? The small-town mayor of Saratoga Springs now sitting on the national stage.
Because, you know, it's interesting.
What did that do?
I had the support of Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan because they vetted me out. They made sure that they weren't just putting their name and their reputation behind just any candidate. They knew what I was able to do in the city.
Were you surprised at all? I'm just saying all that national attention to have these political heavyweights backing Mia Love, who, you know, 8 months ago no one had heard of. What did that do to, you know, your confidence, just in terms of a candidate?
I was humbled. I was grateful for their support. You know, it didn't mean that I was going to go along with everything that they said. I mean, I think that they had a lot of respect for who I am and what I represent. So I'm honored to have their support. I was honored. I think it was great to have Utah have so much attention, and you know, it was a good thing. It was one of the things in the campaign that I think was positive.
So, November 20th is the date
Mm-hmm.
when all these provisional ballots and absentees have to be counted.
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing on the 20th?
I'm going to be with my kids on vacation.
A vacation.
On vacation with my husband and my kids, yes.
And then after that, what?
And then after that, I come home, and depending on how they go, I'll either be going to Washington or figuring out what we're going to do. In the city, like I said, I have a city I still have to run. I keep very busy doing that.
But
and
are you
I'll
not
get out.
ruling out the 4th district race just yet? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that I'm not going to do anything until every vote has been counted.
So you have not conceded?
Oh, not until every vote is counted. We're going to make sure that every vote is counted, and that's it.
And what happens if every vote is counted and
Mm-hmm.
when the votes are counted and you don't come out a winner and you're not the winner?
Same thing. I'll still be on vacation, and then when I get home, I have a city that I have to run, and I'm always going to be a voice for conservative values, always.
What do you think?
I don't know which area that's going to be in.
Do you feel like you have any regrets at all?
No, not one.
Would you have done anything differently?
Oh, like I said, you can dwell. I can go back and analyze everything and dwell.
Have you dwelled? Has there been anything that you've dwelled on?
I felt good about where we were. I ran an honest campaign. I have children that I need to be an example to, and I played by the rules, and I played fair, and I'm very good with. I'm happy with, the example I've been to my kids, and I'm still honored to have met so many people. The people that I've met, we've got some great people in the state, and I'm happy to be a Utahn. I'm happy to be an American.
Speaking of your kids, your daughter, I could see the tears streaming down her face that night.
Mm-hmm.
Was that heartbreaking for you to see your kids upset by?
I think it was a great example. I think it's a great teaching example. My children will have to learn the realities of life, and I think that it's important for me to say to them, you work hard for everything that you believe in. And at the end of the day, if you feel good about the person that you are, then you have nothing to be ashamed of. Just smile and hold your head up high. It was a great example.
What was Mia like behind closed doors? There was criticism pouring in, watching those attack ads.
Nineveh, what you see is what you get. I am the same person in here that I am out there. It's the same. I'm the same person. Like I said, there are so many things that you can do one way or the other. People will complain. They'll criticize. I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm not a victim either. I'm not going to say, well, I lost because of this or I lost because of that. I think it's just, you have to get up and move on. And I've done some great things in my life that I'm proud of. Like I said, I've met incredible people. And so I don't have any regrets.
Why did it take you nearly a week to open up finally? Was it?
You get exhausted. I mean, it's like I said, it's like I can relate things to like running a marathon. You need to like relax, and then you get back up before you can start training and running again. And so I wanted to take some time with my kids. My parents were here. I wanted to take some uninterrupted time with my family, and that was the time to do it.
What did your dad say to you during this time that you've had some private time to yourself?
They're incredibly proud. They're incredibly proud, and they always say, we'll see what they said. The same thing. We'll see what happens on the 20th.
So you're hopeful.
Well, you never know. The race is very close, and
so you're saying the race isn't over?
Well, not until every vote is counted. I mean, I would hate to think that someone would discount votes. I mean, that's like saying that the people that mailed in their votes and some of the provisional ballots don't count. Every vote has to count. That's what makes this country great. And so we're going to wait and see. And either way, what I'm saying is either way, I'm okay.
You wanted that job.
You know, I wanted to make a difference, not that job, no. Not necessarily that job. I want to be able to make a difference. I want to be a voice for conservative values. People are really disappointed with the way things worked out. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that said, oh my gosh, I felt like just curling up in a fetal position. And I think that it's important for me to say, you know, hope is not lost. As long as there are people that are still willing to be in this fight, hope is not lost. And I still believe that we're the ones that's going to fix this country, not Washington. We've got to be able to get up, roll up our sleeves, and do the hard work, though.
Do you feel, I mean, making a difference in Washington as a congresswoman versus making a difference how else?
Anyway, there's so many different ways. I mean, everybody has a role to play. You have a role to play. Doug Wright has a role to play. Professors have a role to play. People, mayors, city council members, people that are teachers, they all have a role to play. Like I said, I'm not going to put myself in a box. I have no idea what that role is beyond this. If it turns out that we haven't won, but either way, I'm going to always contribute, and service is always going to be a vehicle through my life.
But in terms of being a congresswoman, you had the potential to make history for the Republican Party, and as a woman of color.
And I always put that on the back burner. I believe that people should vote for me not because of what I look like, but because of the policies that I'm going to, put in place, or the policies that I put out there, and the solutions that I have. I want people to see me as someone who just doesn't shrink in the background. When it comes to solving problems, getting up and actually solving them. Stop attacking people and start attacking problems. That's what's missing in this country. And I hope that we recognize it and realize it soon. I hope that we can realize we need to make some changes in Washington, or it's not going to work out for us.
So no matter what happens on November 20th, no matter the outcome.
No matter the outcome.
This is not the last of Mia Love.
No matter the outcome, I'm going to always serve. I don't know what that's going to be in, but I will always serve. I think I owe it to my kids to do what I can to preserve opportunities in the future for them. I'm going to do everything I can for this city that I live in, for the district and the state that I love, and certainly this country that I love. I'm a patriot. I'm always going to fight for the preservation of this country, always.
So Mia is still running.
Physically, I'm getting back to running, but you never know. You don't know what that's going to be like. We don't know.